It is an absolute scientific fact that our world has a non-human presence that is more technologically advanced than humanity is. The question then arises, if this presence has any nefarious or even mildly selfish qualities in its relationship to humanity, or if we just don't know what the agenda is of this non-human presence, does that justify humanity being left in the dark about this non-human presence? Here's what Chris Mellon had to say regarding this very question back in 2016 in an interview on the Martin Willis Live show. Link is in the description. This clip is being used under fair use. Chris Mellon is, of course, a member of the To the Stars Academy organization. Roll the clip.
Imagine you are the president, and somebody comes to you in some secret briefing and says, Mr. President, we have this remnants from this alien spaceship that we captured, and we don't know where these people are from, or this maybe it's autonomously controlled or something, but we have this technology, but we don't know who's behind it or why they're here, what their agenda is, and we're not able to provide any reassurance that if they had bad intentions, we could stop them. Now, what kind of responsible person would go public with that? When you think about that, all the kids, all the public, the elderly people have enough problems. If you're the person who's responsible for the safety of 350 million Americans, would you really want to come out with some half-baked thing and say, drop this hand grenade under the dining room table of every family in America and say, oh yeah, we can't protect, we don't know what's going on and we can't really protect you and we don't know what they're doing, but oh yeah, by the way, there's some alien race visiting the planet, have a nice day. Really?
Yes, really, Mr. Mellon, because if the government withholds information of this magnitude from me, they've compromised my free will and the free will of my countrymen. What, I ask you, is more precious than free will? Now, you may be wondering how withholding information about a non-human presence on our planet compromises our free will. I think Morpheus from the Matrix will explain this quite well. The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters. The very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged, and many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it. The truth embargo can be very accurately likened to the Matrix from the movie The Matrix. You see, the UFO phenomena is really the tip of the iceberg of our reality. Our world is much more multifaceted than philosophical materialists would lead you to believe. I believe this realization will be accelerated by the disclosure event. As a consequence, we'll be freed from the bondage, limitations, and lies of strict materialism. Strict materialism is not the truth of our universe. According to Wikipedia, remote viewing is the practice of seeking impressions about a distant or unseen target, purportedly using extrasensory perception, ESP, or sensing with the mind. The US government spent $20 million to research remote viewing for military and spying applications. This project began in 1975 and lasted all the way until 1995. The U.S. interest in remote viewing for spying application was initiated when the United States government learned that the Russians and Chinese had psychic spying programs themselves. Here's a really interesting excerpt from a Miami Herald article titled, CIA Files Reveal How U.S. Used Psychics to Spy on Iran. The psychics were just as good as other human intelligence sources, said May, the physicist who worked with Grill Flame, and unfortunately they were just as bad. Human beings are notoriously horrible at World War II type spying, standing out there with binoculars counting tanks. There are all kinds of biases that can creep in. Just as aerial photos can sometimes mistake a crane for a missile, or deciphering codes can garble a message, or an ordinary human spy can misunderstand a conversation, psychics can misinterpret their remote visions, May said. What Grill Flame and the rest of the remote viewing program lacked was a reliable filter to screen out the mistakes, a filter that might have been developed by now if the experiment had continued, he said. But let me tell you, the psychic program went on for 20 years with every important intelligence agency in the United States making use of it at one time or another, he added. And they funded it for $20 million. You don't get that kind of longevity or that kind of money if you're striking out every time. Many of the psychics' success stories, he said, remain buried in the CIA's classified files. Here's an excerpt from an article titled, "Could There Be Proof to the Theory That We're All Psychic?" In 1995, the U.S. Congress asked two independent scientists to assess whether the $20 million that the government had spent on psychic research had produced anything of value, and the conclusions proved to be somewhat unexpected. Professor Jessica Utz, a statistician from the University of California, discovered that remote viewers were correct 34% of the time, a figure way beyond what chance guessing would allow. She says, using the standards applied to any other area of science, you have to conclude that certain psychic phenomena, such as remote viewing, have been well established. The results are not due to chance or flaws in the experiments. Of course, this doesn't wash with skeptical scientists. Professor Richard Wiseman, a psychologist at the University of Hertfordshire, refuses to believe in remote viewing. He says, "I agree that by the standards of any other area of science that remote viewing is proven, but begs the question, do we need higher standards of evidence when we study the paranormal? I think we do." The idea that we require higher standards of evidence when studying the paranormal strikes me as a pre-disclosure world disposition. A disposition that will be eradicated in a more, ironically, rational post-disclosure world. Denying the UFO phenomena is not rational, never was rational, and there are going to be other modes of reality that are finally going to get the attention they deserve because the study of them is finally going to get the necessary funding to do so. Many realities of our wondrous universe are finally going to be proven in a post-disclosure world that were once erroneously considered fringe pseudo-science. Anyways, what on earth does something like remote viewing possibly have to do with free will, you might be asking? It has everything to do with free will. How does humanity have the freedom to rationally believe that our universe is more than the physical when studies on subjects like remote viewing are shunned and buried by the scientific community? Passage into a post-disclosure world is a doorway to greater free will for all of humanity. I'm going to share with you Tom DeLonge's proposition on the nature of the non-human intelligence that has been a part of our world for a very, very long time. I'm agnostic regarding the truth of his proposition, but his proposition fits beautifully into my admonishment that withholding information on the non-human intelligence of our world compromises the free will of humanity. DeLonge believes that the UFO intelligence created miracles in the sky going back since perhaps the beginning of humankind. This intelligence presented different kinds of miracles before different factions of people so that unique religions would be spawned among the various factions of people. As a result, factions of men started having powerful animosity toward other factions of men based on the clashing of their unique belief systems propagated by the UFO intelligence. But DeLonge goes even further with his thesis. According to DeLonge, at a certain point in our history, actually pretty recently, this UFO intelligence started to purposely crash vehicles in various nations so that they would retrieve those crashed vehicles, study them, and develop more advanced weapons of war, such as nukes and anti-gravitic technology. If DeLonge's thesis is true, and the government knows that it is, which DeLonge seems to suggest, then this would be a prime example of humanity's free will being compromised by the government withholding information about the non-human presence. How many people would continue to believe in their holy books in the manner that they do today if they learned their very religions were spawned not by the creator of the heavens and the earth, but by a non-human intelligence whose mission was to create division amongst humanity. No intelligence service or military apparatus in the world has the right to compromise the free will of humanity. Doing so is a grotesque violation of human rights. Here's another possible scenario to consider. What if disclosure is the only way to discover that humanity was seeded on planet Earth by an extraterrestrial civilization, or even just that at some point in our past, an ET civilization manipulated man's evolution? In a post-disclosure world, the scientific community will undoubtedly investigate many possibilities such as this, that they simply would not touch in a pre-disclosure world. And of course, if we discover that another civilization did play a role in humanity's evolution, this would weaken the religious structures of our world. And as a result, humanity could make a more informed decision on what to believe about the universe. The bottom line is that in a post-disclosure world, the scientific community is going to explore avenues they never would have in the past. And what they will find, I believe, will dramatically alter our understanding of the universe that we live in. Does any intelligence service or military apparatus in our world have the right to thwart or delay that and stunt the growth of humanity? What, I ask you, is more precious than our free will? In what other ways would disclosure increase the free will of humanity? I would genuinely love to hear your answers to that in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, please do not forget to subscribe. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can check out my merch shop. Link is in the description, where I have t-shirts, or you can even become a patron. Or you can just slap a like on this bad boy, and we'll call it a day. I thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.